On the surface, the chemistry was seamless. For years, Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie were the faces of morning stability, a carefully curated image of female solidarity broadcast into millions of homes. But at 61, Hoda Kotb has finally addressed the whispers that have shadowed the Today Show plaza for years. Behind the bright lights and the morning coffee mugs lies a gritty reality of power dynamics, contract negotiations, and a partnership that may have been more of a strategic alliance than a friendship. What truly happens when the cameras stop rolling and the smiles fade? We aren't looking at a simple disagreement, we are looking at the cold, hard mechanics of a high-stakes media machine. The question isn't just what was said, it's why it took this long for the mask to slip. The 30 Rock Plaza is a place of meticulously engineered perceptions. In the wake of 2017, the Today Show was a brand in freefall. The termination of Matt Lauer didn't just leave a seat empty, it left a radioactive crater in the middle of NBC's most profitable morning real estate. The architecture of the new Today had to be flawless. Enter Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie, a pairing that was, on paper, a masterstroke of crisis management. Hoda brought the warmth of the fourth hour, a woman who had survived breast cancer and public heartbreaks with a smile that felt like a hug. Savannah was the steely, intellectual counterbalance, a former legal analyst who could grill a politician without breaking her stride. Together, they were marketed as the ultimate sisterhood. The facts of their early days supported this. Ratings surged as viewers embraced the refreshing absence of the traditional alpha male news anchor. But behind the scenes, the foundation was built on a gritty necessity rather than a natural bond. When two high-achieving professionals are thrust into a marriage of convenience to save a multi-billion-dollar corporate asset, the psychological pressure is immense. Sources from within the production began to whisper about the temperature in the makeup room. It wasn't that there was open warfare, it was the clinical, detached way the two operated when the on-air light died. The alliance was functional, but was it ever truly personal? As the branding of their friendship became the show's primary selling point, the gap between the televised hug and the off-camera silence began to widen. Insiders noted a shift in the newsroom hierarchy, a silent race for the first chair that no one was allowed to talk about. Was the sisterhood a bond, or a mask? In the ecosystem of morning television, there is a finite amount of oxygen. By 2022, a subtle but undeniable shift in the power dynamic became apparent. Hoda Kotb was no longer just the lifestyle anchor, she had become the emotional heart of the network. Her personal milestones, adoptions, engagements, and health updates were ratings gold. This created a psychological friction with the traditional, hard news side of the desk. Savannah Guthrie, who had navigated the complexities of the White House beat, found herself in a position where the soft news was commanding more real estate and more internal influence. Then came the numbers. In the gritty world of talent contracts, salary is the ultimate metric of respect. Reports began to surface of significant pay gaps and top billing clauses that fueled a quiet resentment. When you are told you are equals but the ledger says otherwise, the psychological toll is inevitable. The tension began to manifest in small, observable ways, the timing of their crosstalk, the way one would look away while the other was speaking, and the increasingly separate lives they led outside of the studio. Savannah reportedly felt the show was leaning too far into fluff, while Hoda's camp felt Savannah's approach was becoming increasingly exclusionary. The rumors of a feud were no longer just tabloid fodder, they were reflected in the show's scheduling. A series of missed air dates, including Guthrie's sudden departure from a live broadcast, sent the rumor mill into overdrive. Was it a simple illness, or a tactical move in a Cold War that was quickly heating up? At age 61, most people in the public eye are looking for a way to secure their legacy. For Hoda Kotb, the calculation was different. After nearly 3 decades at NBC, she realized that the glass house of morning television was becoming a cage. In May 2026, the announcement of her departure sent shockwaves through the industry. The facts are clear, she wants more time with her daughters and a slower pace. But the psychological timing of the move speaks volumes. By choosing to exit while still at the top of her game, Hoda effectively stripped the network, and her co-anchor, of their narrative control. In a recent, highly scrutinized address to the public regarding her relationship with Savannah, Hoda's tone was carefully curated. She called Savannah smart as a whip and a sister for life. To the casual viewer, it was a heartwarming tribute. To those looking deeper, it was a tactical maneuver. By addressing the buzz directly, Hoda was performing a cleanup operation. She was neutralizing the feud narrative so it wouldn't tarnish her exit. However, the grit remains in what wasn't said. There was no mention of future collaborations, no mention of shared social plans, only the professional acknowledgement of a season ending. Hoda is walking away from a multi-million-dollar contract and the biggest platform in media. Does this departure signal a graceful transition, or is it the final act of someone who realized that the price of the sisterhood was simply too high to keep paying? To understand the relationship between Hoda and Savannah, one must study the footage like a crime scene. Psychologists who specialize in nonverbal communication point to the mirrored movements often seen in the early years of their partnership. By 2024 and 2025, those mirrors had shattered. The scripted sincerity of morning television requires a level of emotional labor that is rarely discussed. Every "I love you" shared on air is a business transaction. When Hoda addressed Savannah Guthrie recently, the language was curiously detached. She spoke of their shared journey and the strength of the show. It was the language of a corporate memo translated for a consumer audience. The facts show that for the last 2 years, the two have rarely been seen together outside of official NBC events. They have separate PR teams, separate stylists, and increasingly separate social circles. This is the gritty reality of the 30 Rock Plaza. You can work 3 feet away from someone for a decade and remain a total mystery to them. If the friendship was the true north of the show, as NBC claimed, why did the announcement of Hoda's departure feel more like a relief than a tragedy for the production staff? The Today Show set is a pressure cooker. History shows us that this specific desk has a way of isolating those who sit behind it. The sisterhood narrative was not just a marketing tool, it was a psychological burden. Hoda and Savannah were forced to be the standard-bearers for a new era of TV, one where women didn't compete. But in an industry built on limited seats and shrinking ratings, competition is the only constant. The toll of the plaza is the mental exhaustion that comes from playing a character that shares your name but not your reality. The gritty truth is that the environment at NBC has often been described as cutthroat. From the messy exit of Ann Curry to the sudden disappearance of Megyn Kelly, the network has a history of prioritizing the brand over the person. Hoda and Savannah weren't just anchors, they were assets. And assets are expected to perform. The feud may have been nothing more than the natural friction caused by 2 powerful people being forced into a narrow box. The psychological impact of having your every interaction analyzed for signs of meanness or rivalry is enough to break even the strongest partnership. As Hoda prepares her final broadcast, the question remains, was the friction between them a result of their personalities, or was it a symptom of a workplace that requires its stars to be perfectly polished, even when they're cracking inside? With Hoda's exit, the lens now shifts entirely to Savannah Guthrie. Savannah is a survivor. She has outlasted nearly every other anchor from her era, navigating the treacherous waters of network politics with a sharp, analytical mind. But the facts of her public perception are complicated. While respected for her intellect, she has often struggled to achieve the every woman warmth that Hoda projected so effortlessly. Without Hoda, Savannah is left in a vulnerable position. She is now the sole face of a show that promised a dual female leadership. The psychological reality for Savannah is one of intense isolation. She must now prove she can carry the show's legacy without the heart that Hoda provided. The buzz that Hoda addressed was essentially a warning shot for Savannah. It reminded the public, and the network, that the chemistry was the secret sauce. If the show's ratings dip after Hoda leaves, the blame will fall squarely on Savannah's shoulders. The hidden truth is that Savannah didn't just lose a co-anchor, she lost her emotional shield. As the sole captain, will Savannah Guthrie lean into her hard news roots, or will she try to reinvent herself as the empathetic figure the audience craves? The answer may determine whether the Today Show survives the decade. If you look at the final months of the Hoda-Savannah era, the facts point to a relationship that has been professionally liquidated. They are fulfilling their obligations. They are hitting their marks. But the unspoken truths are found in the silences. Hoda's recent address was a masterpiece of saying everything and nothing at once. She addressed the spark of the buzz but didn't actually debunk the specific claims of tension. In the world of high-level PR, a non-denial denial is the gold standard. The gritty reality is that these two women are icons of an industry that is rapidly changing. Morning TV is no longer the cultural juggernaut it once was. The psychological stakes are higher because the pie is getting smaller. The tension was likely a combination of professional exhaustion and the reality that their career paths were diverging. Hoda was looking toward the exit, Savannah was looking toward the throne. Those are two very different psychological states, and they rarely coexist peacefully in the same room. Hoda's address to Savannah may have been a goodbye, but was it also an apology? Or was it a final, calculated move to ensure her own reputation remained spotless as she walked out the door? The saga of Hoda and Savannah isn't a story of a catfight, despite what the tabloids want to sell. It is a story of the cold, hard mechanics of fame. The final revelation is that their relationship was exactly what it needed to be for the time it needed to exist. They saved a network. They built a brand. And then, they outgrew each other. At 61, Hoda Kotb realized that the sisterhood was a job, not a life. Her address to Savannah was the closing of a ledger. The psychological transformation of Hoda Kotb, from the woman who tried to please everyone to the woman who was willing to walk away, is the true story here. She addressed the buzz not to save the partnership, but to end it on her own terms. As she prepares to leave the plaza for the last time, the image of her and Savannah Guthrie sitting together will remain a symbol of a specific era in television. It was an era of high-definition smiles and low-definition truths. As the camera pans away from the desk for the final time, the audience is left with one haunting question: in the world of the glass house, is it ever possible to be truly known, or are we all just playing parts until the season is over?